Okay, this is my 2022 Chevrolet Spark, and bought it 2 weeks ago. Wills Point Chevrolet, it's a new color. Bought it to pull behind my motorhome, and I purchased everything from E-Trailer. I got the all-terrain, non-binding Falcon tow bar. I got the 64-inch cables, which they were out of. Took 3 or 4 days to get them. And there's the base plate, which is the 523-202-5. I think that covers several years, but looks like for 2022. It didn't specifically say it, but everybody said that's the right one. Also got, rather than have to cut the wiring, I got this Custer LED light bar that goes on the back. I'm also going to review that. Not sure if I'll do it on this video, but I probably will. It's got the 7-pin transmitter that you plug into your trailer hitch 7-way on the back of the motorhome. So I think I got everything laid out. Fortunate I've got a pretty good shop, and I've got it up on the lift here, and I want to start with removing the front bumper cover. Instructions say to remove these 2 bolts on each side. They're 10mm heads. And then there's also some push pins right there and right there. I'm going to do that. Also recommends that you put some painter's tape on this seam right here on both sides, just to protect it from scratching the paint. So I'm going to do that. Once I get that all taken loose, I'll raise the car up and show you what's underneath. Okay, I've got the car up in the air now, and I've removed the 4 bolts, 2 on that side, 2 on that side, and then there was the 4 push pins. Now there are 2 7mm head bolts that you've got to remove where the fender meets the bumper cover. I found that if you put your roll of tape in there like that, then that bolt, maybe you can see it here. Let me get right there, really easy to get to. Put your tape in there, it's a whole lot easier to get it. Now, one thing that I would suggest you buy in, if you go to O'Reilly's and you buy this door panel remover. I've had several of these, but this is by far the best one I've owned. And here it is right here. This works really good. It's the brand is Performance Tool. But what makes it good, it's got a sharp edge on it, and it really saves a lot of time getting these push pins out, because they are pretty thin, and this tool allows you to get under it very easy. So I'm getting the bolts out now. Got the up on the lift. I'm going to go ahead and get the bolts out of the bottom. I'll show that here in just a moment. Okay, I've got the car up now, and under here there were 4 bolts on each side holding this little plastic splash shield on, and it looks just like this. So that was up there, real easy to get loose. The bolts weren't tight at all. So I've got that off. And next, I think I'm going to lower the car down, and I'll show you removing the bumper cover. Okay, I've got the bumper cover off now. And it was a little bit tricky getting that off. In this area right here, you'll find that the instructions say to pull it straight out. It's pretty tight. You got to really put some power into it. And these plugs are also a little bit tricky, and I'm going to show you up close. This has got a little red thing. You pull it out, and then you push right there where my thumb is, and they'll disconnect from the bumper cover. Now, I don't have fog lights, so at least I don't think I have fog lights. I only had 2 plugs. They mentioned that there may be some fog lights. I had an old wheelchair that I used for my dad, and man, it worked absolutely perfect. So I don't know if you've got a wheelchair handy, but you can set that on there and roll it right off. So next step is taking the reinforcement off the front, and I'll show you that next. Okay, the next thing it says to do is remove the 4 push pins that hold the upper air dam, and I wanted to show you how easy this tool is if I can do it one-handed. So I've already pulled the pin out of the top. This tool makes it so easy just to pop that right out. There's one of them. So the little tool is well worth the money. Let me go ahead and I'll get that those 4 pins out of the top, and then there's one here and one over here that hold this lower air dam on. So let me get those out, and then I'll get back to it. Okay, I removed the bumper core. It's got 3 bolts on each side, real simple. Kind of hard to hold this and show you too. So I'm going to set that aside. And then they actually tell you to cut this lower air dam before you take it off. I would suggest taking it off and then cutting it, which I've already done. And I'll show you what I cut it off with. I've got a cutoff wheel, thin cutoff wheel on my DeWalt cordless side grinder, and it made it real easy just to trim that off on each side. Hopefully I trimmed it off like the instructions said. It was a little bit vague, but I've got it trimmed. I did also take off the horn, and that horn was mounted right here on the side by the windshield washer. Now, I don't have a 13mm ratcheting in wrench, but I would suggest getting one. It would be a heck of a lot easier. That bolt is captured or spot welded here. So it's very hard to get in there. And then on top of that, it's a locking nut. So pretty time consuming. If you got a 13mm ratcheting in wrench, it will make it a lot easier. So I've got all that off. The next step is you've got to drill out these holes to 1/2 inch. And then down at the bottom, you've got to drill a hole here through on both sides. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of 3/4 inch plywood in here, because I could see that if you, and again, I'm working by myself, so I got to rig up something here to hold it in. But if you're not really careful, when you're drilling through these holes, if you'll notice here, I'll get where I can show you. This hole lines up perfectly with the condenser manifold. So it would be really easy, and it's aluminum, so you could neck it really easy. On this other side, the thing that you'd have to be careful of is this one refrigerant hose. and it's goes to the top of the condenser right here by the high pressure switch. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rig up something. So I'm going to go ahead and get these holes drilled and get back with you. Okay, I got the holes drilled. Definitely wasn't the easiest to do. I also put some gray primer on them. What I would suggest doing is, well, let me show you the board I used. Here it is. Okay, I got the holes drilled, and I've got my 9/16 by 1 marked where I've got it cut. But the holes, even though that material is super thin, it's really hard to drill. I cut a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and I stuffed it up into here so that I could drill through. Over here now, I tied off the radiator hose because this hole you have to drill all the way through. And then this up here hole is really close to this refrigerant line. So I tied it off to allow it to have some clearance. And again, up here I used the same 3/4 inch board to protect the refrigerant line and the high pressure switch. Now, what I would suggest doing is, the only really long bit I had was a 3/8. So I went through there with that 3/8 and I marked my hole. And then I took and rather than go hog that out all at one time, I drilled through the bottom hole, which it's very small. I went and drilled it through with this 3/8, and then I stepped up 7/16, 29/64, 15/32, 31/64, and then a half. And I used cobalt bits. Believe it or not, this material is really, really hard to drill. You got to drill it slow and it'll grab on you. But if you take your time and just step it up like that, rather than try to do it all at one time, it's not too bad. So the next step is to cut out these notches that I'm pretty sure what that's for is to allow room for the base plate to go in there. So that's my next step. Okay, I got the notches cut out on both sides and primed. And again, what I used was the DeWalt 1/8 inch, or actually it may be 1/16 cutoff wheel, 1/16 cut off on both sides, and primed it. And I'm ready to try to get it in there. I took the tie wrap off the radiator hose, took the tie wrap off the refrigerant line, and took these 2 bolts out of the condenser on the left side. Hopefully that'll give a little bit of room, little finagle room here to get it in. So that's it. Okay, I got the base plate installed. It definitely had to wrestle it in there. It didn't fit quite like the instructions said it should. I ended up having to nip this off a little bit right here to actually get it in. And the condenser, I had to take all 4 bolts off the condenser and let it hang down. And obviously it's pretty tough to get it on there by yourself. You really need some help. I tied off the radiator hose with tie wraps, and I tied this high pressure line back to give me room to get it in. And the bolts didn't line up real good. I don't know if that was due to the fabrication of the base plate or the car itself may be a little bit different, but I ended up, this bolt fit fine. This bolt here was a little off, and you couldn't pry it any because right here it's up against the frame. This hole and the bottom hole on the other side was also about a quarter of a hole off, and there's no way to pry it because it's just too, it's built too strong to do that. So I took my die grinder with a carbide burr, and I had to open this hole up a little bit on the top, and then both holes on the bottom, it looked like it was drawn inward, so I had to take a little bit off on the outboard side of each one to allow the bolt to get in. Other than that, it fit pretty good. Again, that 9/16 by 1 inch made it very, very difficult. There's no way to really get it in there. So I did take and I nipped this a little bit on a 45-degree angle, made it where I could get it in. But other than that, it's on. You got to be very careful when you're installing it here because the radiator petcock is right here. And as you're putting this on, you come very close to this. So be aware of that. You break that off, you're gonna end up buying a new radiator, and I don't think anybody wants to do that. But I've got it on. I've been at it about 3 hours, started pretty early this morning. But I'll go ahead and start putting it back together now and see how that goes and let you know. Okay, I got the base plate installed. Here's a shot of the hole I cut out. Used the carbide burr on the die grinder, worked pretty good. I actually didn't use the bracket for the wiring plug since I used the Custer LED wireless version. I'm going to show you that now. I've got it hooked up. But all in all, it turned out pretty good. See, the bumper cover came on pretty good. A little tough to get those clips back in, but got them in. Let me go back here to the back and show you the Custer on the back. Looks pretty good. It's a 23-inch light bar. Go ahead and give me a brake light. Well, you know those LEDs don't show up on the camera. That's weird. Left turn signal. It's actually real bright, but it's not showing up on the camera. Right blinker. Brake lights again. Let off the brake. Press on it again. Okay, well, they're showing up somewhat. And parking lights. Okay, it looks good. When I installed it, I did notice that the inside it, there was something rattling around, and I called Custer, and they asked me to take the back off. I screwed the 2 magnets off, and I found that the receiver had come loose from the case. It was on a little piece of Velcro, and when they stuck it onto the case, it had a lot of debris on it, and it didn't stick. So all I had to do was clean the debris off and stick it on and put it back together, but that all worked out good. But again, this is Custer products. The gentleman I talked to, Todd, said that they're used a lot in the towing industry, but I thought for this application it would work out good, so I didn't have to cut into the wiring. But all in all, it worked out real well. Okay, I decided to close the garage door. Maybe we can see these lights a little better. Give me a left blinker. Okay, and a right blinker. And a brake light. Okay. Now turn on the running lights. Okay, that's good. So you can see they're pretty bright, and I just wanted you to be able to see that they are really bright when it's dark out. And actually they're pretty bright during the daylight. It's just the camera doesn't really pick them up real good. But that's going to end this install of the Roadmaster base plate for the 2022 Spark, and also a review of the wireless Custer light kit. So if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and I'm trying to get this YouTube started, so go ahead and subscribe if you would. Thank you.